Hello and welcome back to another episode of Just4Games, the show where we talk about video games.
Do you have to think for a second what you do on the show?
What?
Just for shoes? What show is this?
It only like Just for Games, where we talk about what do we talk about?
Okay, just keep this in.
This is a special podcast about the number 4 and how much we love it so much. It's a number that Fox has never heard of before.
No, it's the show where we talk about video games because we love them, we love playing them, we love talking about them, we love talking about like what we think a game should be or how to make it better. And also we love ripping into games that we absolutely hate. So on this episode, we are joined today by Mr. Sexy Waistcoat himself, who is not wearing the waistcoat.
I don't just wear it all the time.
You should actually, to be honest.
I only wear it for special occasions.
This is what people associate you with.
Yeah,
I never ever thought that would happen my whole life. What's your legacy?
A sexy waistcoat. How are you anyway tonight?
I'm fantastic. I'm good.
Good.
I got my drink and we're going to talk about video games. It's a perfect evening.
Yay. So yeah, obviously let's kick this off like straight away. So first category, the game that you absolutely love, like your absolute favorite game ever.
For me, so it's kind of easy because I've played this franchise more times than I could fucking count at this age, but the Last of Us series, specifically, if I'm picking one specifically, even though it's not as good, arguably gameplay or whatever, but I go with the original one because that was I vividly remember playing the opening scene, and you've all played it, I'm presuming. So yeah, look, it's an old game. If you have spoilers at this stage, right? Like Sarah dying in the opening fucking scenes again, it was so unexpected and it was so well acted by the voice actors and everything. It was heartbreaking. And literally the moment I seen it, I was just like, oh my God, this game, I'm 10 minutes in and I'm absorbed. I'm completely fucking in there with it. And went on the whole game. It's just, we were talking about this a little bit beforehand. I'm a story-driven gamer, so I love a good story. And this is way back, way back when I loved games. Like some of my favorite games were the original, like Final Fantasies and all that stuff. I love the big stories. And that one, to me, was just fantastic. So much so they're making it into a damn TV series now, using the same, that's how good the story is. Apparently the story is not being adapted that much. It's just being taken directly to it. And gameplay wise, I thought it was fantastic. Obviously in the second one, they elaborated more on it and all that stuff. And I thought it was just a real feeling game, if that makes sense. I love the mechanics of it. I love the characters, the acting, how they were presented. The graphics, even at that time on PS3, were fucking phenomenal. Obviously they took that step up again with the second one. And I heard, now please, one of you correct me if I'm wrong, I heard that even though they've already done a remaster of the original Last of Us, I heard they're doing another one, but doing it for like PS5, and they're going to do a more in-depth one of the original Last of Us as well, which I would believe if this TV series and everything is coming out, I would,
you want to tie it in with you, wouldn't you?
Yeah, kind of re-release it with a new shiny coat to kind of capitalize on any new fans you might get coming in off the show, or whatever. But yeah, for me, that's number one. It's still a game I'll go back and I'll play through both of them once a year, probably just to do it. When the way there's always those like maybe a month or two lull period where there's no games that you really are captured by Ratton. They're my kind of, them and a couple of other ones, which I'm sure we'll touch on at some point, are my go-tos. They're my, like, I'm bored. There's nothing really capturing my imagination in the library. I know I love these games. That's what we're going to go with. So yeah, for me, Last of Us. Don't know. I don't know if that's a controversial take. I'm that bit older, so you'd expect me maybe to like an older game. And I do definitely like them. And there's some that I definitely put in my top fucking 10, definitely, of the older games. But for me, that just from the get-go just caught me. I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Like you're not the first one to pick something that was relatively modern.
Yeah.
In terms for their favorite game, because my favorite when we had done the first episode was the Marvel Spider-Man.
There you go. That's in my list as well. Another fantastic game.
Like, because the story that was that they had crafted for it, but also how immersive the game was. Like that, I explained it.
Why the fuck did they change what Peter looked like?
I don't know. I don't like it.
What the fuck was that about?
I don't like that.
What happened there?
And I had said that like before. It's like, why are they changing them up? Like,
it seemed so unnecessary.
Yeah, it is unnecessary. Like, the game is fine. You don't need to change his appearance. Apparently, it was because they wanted to make him look a little younger than he was.
Was that it?
And they kind of wanted similar to
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland. It's like, you don't need to do that.
No, he looked fine the way he was. No issues.
Because keep in mind that, like, for that game in particular, that's set when he's years of being Spidey.
Yeah.
Like, so it makes sense for him to be an older Peter Parker. Not necessarily like fucking middle age or.
Oh well, he's meant to be like he's a scientist at this stage.
Yeah,
he's done with school and everything. Like, you know, he's a scientist. That's it.
Like, he's considered an adult, but like he's not like in his 40s or anything like that. He's still like probably mid-20s, mid to late.
I think the thing about kind of modern games, like, and I think with people of our kind of age demographic, I think there's almost more of an appreciation because we saw how games were, at least in my eyes. So like, I'll still turn on games on my fucking PS5 and I'll be fucking stunned at how beautiful it is. And I'll spend the first 5 minutes going, oh, look at the graphics. Look at the fucking graphics. Look at that. Looks like a real person. You know, because like my first computer was a Commodore 64.
Yeah.
You know, so like, I mean, I'm used to pixels, or like I grew up with pixels and fucking, you know, 8-bit, 16-bit and all this. Like, fucking Cloud Strife was a Lego character, you know, like, but like fucking, I think there might almost be a different appreciation when you've kind of lived through stuff now. And also, don't get me wrong, when I first played Final Fantasy VII, way back in the day, when I very first played it, I thought the graphics were amazing. I thought it was brilliant. Cutscenes, yeah, they look terrible now. At the time, they were blowing my mind. They were unbelievable.
Good cutscenes, though. They're very good set pieces. Like,
yeah.
That's the thing about that. I find the point you make very intriguing because, like, I'm of the same kind of like age bracket as yourselves. You know, despite that, obviously, me and Dennis have the baldness, so we always look older anyway. But the thing is that,
cheers.
Like, always, but the thing is, like, the thing about it is that I've always never valued graphics that much in a sense because I always try and look for substance over style. So at least in my games, like a lot of the games I like are ones that I consider really well written and have a lot of depth to them. You know, so when you talk about Final Fantasy VI, like the one thing I'm not thinking of there is the graphics. I'm talking about the depth of characters, the fact that each one gets their spotlight.
Yes,
if you want to play as a character, they get their spotlights. The same way you mentioned there, like two characters I love are Sabin and Cian, because you play as Cian, you see his entire backstory as you get him. It's like, holy fuck, I want to play as him and avenge his fucking family. Same way with Sabin, he has this great, like, this fucking fantastic dynamic with his brother oh shit, I have to forget his brother. That's embarrassing. But you know what I mean. The one who lost the coin toss.
Yeah.
But there was an entire character arc to him, because then he comes back and he's like fighting for other people as well. So there's all different dynamics to it. So when tying back to the conversation with The Last of Us, it's funny you should mention about the kind of the takeaways I had from playing that game was the actual polish to it, in a sense where it looks good and it sounds good and so forth. So if anything, I'd probably say like the actual writing was probably the weakest point of it. Like it was solid. I don't think it actually broke any kind of ground, in a sense. I think there's better written games out there and that have pushed the boundary and have tried to do something actively different. I think The Last of Us was a par serve with writing, but like whatever happened at the start followed through in the end, if you know what I mean. In the middle was your serve, you know.
I won't disagree. I think for me, I wouldn't say it was like the best written thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But I think it was a combination, like a perfect storm. Because it was 8
out of 10 across the board, is what I would say.
It was solid writing, but then mixed with fantastic acting.
Yes, acting was a strong suit, yes.
Great gameplay and visually stunning.
Visually very good. Setting fantastic.
So I think that all mixed together just kind of, you know, reeled it in for me, and probably story-wise built it up more in my head. Do you know what I mean? To what it is, but it's still a story that I love. It was kind of, for me, I'm more than likely wrong. But for me, it was the first time I had seen a take on a zombie virus done with a more, what would you say? These aren't people fucking with a necromancer saying a spell and rising them from the grave. This is an infection via fungus, and this fungus really does exist in real life, and it really does infect insects, and it does turn them into these walking type of zombie things. And it was obviously an elaboration, a bastardization of that, and taking this real life cordyceps, mushrooms and fungus, and saying, well, what if they developed that they could infect humans, and kind of doing it like that. And I thought that was, again, I'm more than likely wrong, and it probably has been done before. But for me personally, I hadn't seen that done before. And seeing a more almost this could happen take on as a zombie plague was very, very intriguing to me, and very kind of unique to me. That I had seen that. I really liked that kind of take and that story that they went with, you know.
It's a very logical zombie apocalypse, because like fungus is spread by spores, so once they explode, then other people will get zombified. It makes sense.
Yeah. Hence, you know, when they're going down underground and stuff like that, or there's one of the infected that has kind of become so infected that they've now kind of glued to the wall or whatever, and they're releasing the spores, and you see the spores everywhere. The whole thing of it is, you know, Ellie, for some reason, is immune to it, and as far as I know, the only one that they've seen is immune to it, so she can breathe in these spores fine, but everybody else has to wear these gas masks or they're fucked, because that's how they'll infect them. And again, I thought that was a nice, unique take on it, and definitely led to the ability to design more anticipation built levels and stuff, like in you know, subways and stuff, when they go down and it's dark, because obviously it's dark because nobody goes down here anymore. So there's no power and like that. It's dark. You only see these spores. You have to light your torchlight. You hear these clicking in your ear, and I loved that. So yeah, maybe as far as writing goes, I have definitely seen stuff written arguably better. You know, again, the Final Fantasy series, with a few exceptions, jumps to my head, more in depth, etc. But I still think it was a unique take for me on the story.
Yeah, major overall experience, just that more immersive. As everything was, as you said, like the story wasn't like a high level, but it was solid. So therefore, like, everything else was solid, like completely solid across the board. It made you fully immersed in the actual game, and that's how you get so much enjoyment out of it.
Yeah,
So
I go with that. Yeah, like everything's solid. The characterization was good. But like I said, I think it's fine because you only had two real main strong main characters in there anyway. So it's always about the dynamic of those two. Like I would always compare The Last of Us to Telltale's The Walking Dead, the first season before I went to ship. And
just the first one.
Just the first one, yeah, because the dynamic between Lee and Clementine makes the game.
True.
So you're talking up to when Lee has to die.
Yes.
Yeah. That decision, like, do you shoot him? Or
you see, I played. Oh well, now that decision broke my heart, and that is also. See, I have very different games in my top list because, again, like you, Jonathan, a good story. I don't really care what the game is. Like I'm not a fan of first-person shooters at all.
Same.
But yet, BioShock Infinite is up in my top list because I think the story is fantastic.
I like that.
Do you know what I mean? Story is fantastic, so I'll try something, even if I historically don't like it. And if there's something there to drag me in, I'm with it the whole way. You know?
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, no, I see what you mean. Like, yeah, no, I see your point. Because like the thing about the point I was going to make was that the two games are very similar in kind of tone and setting. In the sense, the zombie apocalypse, you have a paternal instinct to both main characters, and essentially the daughter, if you like, the proverbial daughter, will then has to take up the mantle and then move forward. And I think if I was to compare the two, I think the Walking Dead is a good start for what The Last of Us could have gone to. Like I think it's intended upon your point of view whether they actually like worked on that or not. I prefer the way The Walking Dead did it myself because
I kind of do, in the fact that was truly. There's only a couple of times I've legitimately felt myself welling up playing video games. And that scene with Lee and Clementine was the first playthrough was genuinely one of those times that was honestly heartbreaking. And again, the something that probably, purposely graphics weren't amazing. They were kind of cell shaded comic.
I liked them. They were good. I think it's
but it wasn't meant to look overly realistic, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yet you still found such an identifying. You've watched these two come close together and the relationship and all that stuff go on, and it was truly heartbreaking. But then, I mean, you see, you could argue as well. Last of Us. I mean, if you want to see how much people connected with those characters, look at the reaction to what happened to Joel in Last of Us 2.
Oh, I fucking hated that.
See, you see,
honestly, it took me completely out of sequel. I had no interest.
Did
in
it?
None whatsoever.
I was very upset by it originally.
Yeah,
but once I played it through, I did like, and when Druckmann explained that this was always the story. He had this story written. This was always the story. It didn't change for anything. This was his story, and that was the way it was written, which I have to admire. And the fact that they tied it in nicely with Abby's dad was one of the doctors that Joel. Arguably, that was one of the things in the final scenes of The Last of Us when he fucking killed the doctors in there. Yeah. He didn't have to do that.
No. He was completely irrational.
So he was, he was wound up and he was panicking and all that, and he shot them. So, one of them had a daughter or a son. She made it her mission to hunt him fucking down.
Yeah.
And when she got him,
that was it.
She fucking made him suffer.
Yeah.
So it's I kind of like the dynamic of a guy that we had identified as our hero.
Yeah, the protagonist.
In the thing. It was shown he was a hero to us, but it's very easy to see, I know in this fake world and all that stuff, but still how he's a villain to somebody else. Even though he was saving, our girl Ellie, he was being the hero in our eyes, but somebody else, he was destroying their world.
Yeah, and so he was saving his own daughter, but it was
so it gave I kind of liked in The Last of Us 2, again, not instantly, but further on I got into it, and you got Abby's story fleshed out a little bit more. I liked the take on it, the kind of reverse aspect of it, where she was hunting revenge. And I liked then that you had this whole cat and mouse throughout the whole thing, because, and the whole point of the entire story was a circle.
Yeah.
And how at the very end, even he said he had a different ending written up until kind of the last days. They had a different ending where Ellie kills Abby.
Yeah.
But the whole point of it was he wanted Ellie to break the circle, break the cycle of violence, because it was Joel killed somebody special to Abby, then Abby killed somebody special to Ellie, then Ellie killed somebody special to this other child, and it was just a vicious circle. So Ellie broke the circle, the end, which I liked, and it was in depth. Now, I will say, look, like most games, not perfect. I thought Last of Us 2, I thought too much time, in my opinion, spent on Abby's story.
Yeah.
Too much time playing as Abby. You know, but I get what they were trying to do, and
they had to establish her as well.
Exactly, you had to give a shit, because otherwise, the entire conflict would mean nothing at the end.
Yeah.
You had to sympathize, even though, and I thought brave of him to try this, because rather than doing something where you play as Abby for ages and then have her revealed as Joel's murderer, they show you
straight away,
fairly quick, that she killed Joel, and now we're going to try and make you sympathize with her. That's a tough big challenge to take on.
It's brave. I'll give you that much. You're already on the losing point there.
Exactly. So it was an instant, like, and these guys obviously far fucking better at this stuff than I am, but they must have known that's an uphill battle. That's an uphill fight to try and make us. We just watch her kill the main character from the last game in a brutal fashion.
Yeah.
And now they're going to try and tell us why and get us to sympathize with her reasons. And I thought, you know, while not perfect, I thought they did a good job. I really do thought they did a good job. And I thought it was a very, very, very good couple of games. And I you know, Druckmann got a lot of shit, and I applaud him for not changing his vision. That was his story. He had a right to tell his story the way he wanted to tell it.
Absolutely.
Fair enough, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, obviously, like, we're after talking about, like, your favorite game, but now we go to the opposite side of the spectrum.
I'll take Secret Lads. Here we go.
The game that has driven you to rage, to walk away, to come back like a masochist, and then to have your heart ripped out again and again. The game that you absolutely despise.
So I have a couple for that definition you've written, but I have one game that I despise because I had high hopes for it, and I felt so fucking robbed and lied to when I actually played it, that I played a couple of hours of it and then deleted it and haven't played it since, after dropping, I think, 80 quid on it.
Ooh.
It was The Division.
Yeah. Fair point. Yeah.
So I remember I was working in a place at the time, and one of the lads came into work and he said, "Here, did you see this trailer for a game?" And he showed me this trailer for The Division, and it was a fantastic. It looked really, really cool, really cool. And it was like this, you know, getting called up, you know, as you were being activated suddenly, you know, these sleep rage and all that stuff being activated as The Division or whatever. I don't know overly large amounts about the story because I didn't play it very long, because I got it, psyched up for it. I had a pre-order, I got it, I turned it on, and it was just this multiplayer clusterfuck that was... so, okay, now, again, these are all my personal opinion. I fucking hate multiplayer games. Mm-hmm. I don't play online. I the only time I play online is if it's like actual friends of mine that I know of, and I like fucking invite into a group. I don't just play with strangers on the internet, or whatever, because it annoys the shit out of me. So, like I fucking
You're full of ass. You're full of ass.
Yeah, look, if I want to hear a fucking 12-year-old saying they fuck my mom, I can fucking just go to, I don't know, fucking walk down the road. I don't know.
Apparently, there's full of them in Waterford, apparently. Who knew?
But sorry,
full of trolls, lads, apparently.
I'm not from Waterford, so it's grand.
That's how you know. That's how you know.
But no, but like the game itself, I just thought, like, again, you know, I have no idea because I haven't played it since. This could be a fucking No Man's Sky situation where it started off awful and through updates and patches they made it good, which I've heard they made No Man's Sky. But that game to me was just the most pointless, boring bollocks I ever played in my life. You're just a general you're just a generic army person number 4 walking around shooting other people, and you'll encounter some stupidly overpowered fucking shit. It starts off with a nice premise of a story and then abandons that story almost instantaneously.
Yeah.
And I just, I fucking not a fan at all. Like, you see, I'll have games that I hate, but I hate to love. So like Cuphead annoys the living Jesus out of me, but I'll play the fucking thing because it's a good game.
It's fun.
It's a really good game, but it's so infuriatingly difficult.
Old school. It's old school. That's what it is.
That's me with Alien Hominid.
I haven't played that one.
Alien Hominid is the same fucking idea. Literally going along, fucking defeating enemies, but like the bosses are just insanely hard. And same mechanics as well. Same as Cuphead. You're just shooting.
Yeah.
Like, that's exactly it. So that's Alien Hominid. Only you play as an alien, and it's the government trying to fucking catch you.
That's what I mean. So their games, I actually, if I were to say, I actually enjoy them. You know, you get pissed off at them and all that stuff, and you go, I'm never fucking playing this shit again. Fuck off, and you delete it. A couple of weeks later, you'll re-download it. But for true hatred, I've yet to come across a game that I haven't been able to find some sort of redeeming quality in it, except for The Division. I'm sure people love it. I'm sure maybe it's better now. I got it when it was released. So I'm sure there's lots of different things to it. And you'll probably, have these same people that I get all the time saying, oh, well, you didn't play it long enough though. You need to play it for 17 hours and that's when it gets good. And you're like,
nothing gets good after 17 hours.
No.
You're like, no, if I'm going to sink time into something, it better have something early on that can reel me in and say, no, well, look, it's going to be a good game or whatever. That's bollocks. That's just fucking bullshit. If a game isn't a good game, it's not a good game. I just, that even talking about it is annoying me. I still want my €80 back.
Is it, you have the exact same reaction to the that I had to Watch Dogs.
Watch Dogs.
Yeah, I have the exact same reaction to that because, like, both of them have the same common denominator. That's fucking Ubisoft. They just cannot make a game that's not a sandbox. They just cannot. It's physically impossible for them to do a game that isn't a fucking sandbox. Like, literally, Assassin's Creed, sandbox. Far Cry, sandbox. The Crew, it was a racing game. It's also a fucking sandbox. The Division, sandbox. Watch Dogs. They can't do any other games.
The only ones, arguably, that aren't sandbox, but are they? South Park?
That's an RPG game, and they're not, I don't know if they're the developers in that or not. I think, like, at least the Division, they have a hand.
I know they're involved in it because their names. I've literally played it again recently, and the Ubisoft logo is there. So
yeah, I know that they are publishers, but I don't think.
Oh well, okay. They may have just been publishers, in which case they wouldn't have had to do with it.
Yeah, but like they have, publishers can kind of fuss around those kind of things as well. But like it is exactly the same complaints though, because like I know you well because I only recently played Watch Dogs again. Granted, I was drinking at the time, so it made it a little easier to play. And honestly, like you start the game, like first mission, second mission, you get through, and the next 7 missions are tutorials on the rest of the game. It's like, that's slow. Well, is this it?
I have played that. I have played that game through. I played that and the second one through.
Fucking terrible. Like I literally, there was like a point where like this is a game about hacking and like finding your way through like these kind of situations. You're given an AK fucking half an hour in, and then boom, game solved, done. It's like, well, I don't fucking need this then, do I? Off I fucking pop like. I have to be a fucking school shooter now. Job done.
Jesus, that took a turn.
Honestly, like like we have the same complaint because the Division could have been really, really interesting, but they just packed it with generic gameplay. They didn't do anything unique with it. Like there's better Tom Clancy games out there than the Division. If anything, I think it's probably one of the weakest because it's such a point-by-numbers game.
Yeah,
they didn't have anything unique to it.
And I think Ubisoft, one of their problems as well, they have a habit. Again, other developers have done this, I know. Sorry, myself and Boxy's boss just texted me. We're in trouble, Foxy. But anyway.
You can take a call here if you want to explain.
That threw me off. Sorry. What was I talking about? Ubisoft, yes.
Yes, he knows we're repping. That's why.
Yeah, he can sense somebody wearing my merchandise, pal. But
I fucking love that game. Fuck off. I love Ubisoft. Be more.
Would you like some cuddle? Yeah,
Matt. Joe. Shut up, Matt. Fuck off, Joe.
Ubisoft have a habit. So I do look. I'm a sucker for them, even though again some of them are just are not subjectively bad games. Is the Assassin's Creed series. I have enjoyed them. Again, this was a case of some not so much, but I've been able to pick redeeming qualities from one. But they're that particular series of games I have found as a fascinating case study of Ubisoft.
Yeah,
where they'll take a franchise that has really good premise and really good idea, and they'll overcomplicate it and dilute it and dilute it and dilute it till it's eventually they get so much backlash, which is what happened to them. They got so much backlash that they essentially have to say, we've been pumping out one of these every year. Okay, we'll take a couple of years off and completely redo the games. And now they completely redid them with Origins and then Odyssey and now Valhalla. Valhalla is a fantastic game, but it's arguably not an Assassin's Creed game.
Yeah, it's a Vikings game.
You know, there's very, loosely based Assassin game, but it's a great game. I actually really liked it. It's a really good game. But from that to Altair is very, very different. And I like that they have tried to start bringing back in parts of the original things like the exterior animus and all that stuff with a new character and all that because they blew their load too early and killed off Desmond. But that's what I mean. It's fascinating to see that kind of progression of the company, watching them kill their franchise by basically getting rid of everything that people liked, i.e. Desmond and Desmond's story, etc. And then going, oh, fuck, okay, they won't just buy any old shit we put out. We're about to murder our franchise here, our big money-making franchise. Best we go back to the drawing board and attempt to fix this. Arguably, they have fixed it to a degree, but very interesting to look at that and kind of what they do. I just think sometimes they get so carried away and they start, and other developers again are guilty of this. They'll start with something great and they'll overcomplicate it. And they'll start saying, okay, well, we've added in this whole trading system and this is a brilliant trading. Well, what the fuck do I want trading system in a game where I kill people? Fuck off.
Yeah.
You know, like,
exactly,
why do I want to barter my wood? I want to go and fucking kill people. Like,
barter your ward is a fantastic euphemism, by the way.
That sounds so
I'll use
crazy.
that one next time. Fucking hell, that's good. That's good one. That is. But no, I totally see your point, because I in the pilot of this series, I nominated Assassin's Creed 3 as my worst game for the exact same reason you're talking about, because their design process is so knee jerk. It's like,
and what a boring main character. What a boring ass main character.
Awful main character. The fact that like his dad being a Templar is a more interesting and likable character says so much about how much you fucked up the writing of the first one.
Yeah.
The writing, the acting,
dreadful.
It's just bad.
Dreadful game. And the thing is that, but it shows you the knee-jerk reactionary design to that series, because one, Altair, Grant, it was a free swing. Main takeaway was that no one really liked the main character, didn't like Desmond. Grant, let's skip Desmond and we'll go to Ezio. Ezio, boom, brilliant, charismatic character. Grant, everyone likes him.
So much so we're going to fucking milk him to death.
You milk him to death. Yeah, 2 more games. The same gameplay, each game, and it's something a little extra added on. So they had like little, you had your little subordinates, and you had, like, as you said, in Constantinople, you had like, I think it was a historical sites or something, like a bit of sightseeing tour around Constantinople. Cool.
Where the brotherhood, where you had to send your assassins out around various places.
Yeah, there's like a base management basically. So like, again, no problem with that, right? It's a small little thing, but again, essentially you are putting out the same game 3 times with the same character, with a little bit different and a little bit of story packed in. It's literally a money making exercise, to the point then when you get to number 3, you have a main character, you go like, your main market analysis from the first 4 games is that no one really cares for Desmond's storyline. Okay, here's what we'll do. We'll just kill him off and just scrap the storyline. It's like, but did you not have an overarching point to it? Did you not have a story to go with? Or did you just talk about? And it did.
Was this not meant to be some grand... it was meant to be some grand story about the predecessors and all that, and how God's real and all that. But it's like, no, Desmond sacrificed himself.
Yeah, that's it. Done.
Forget about it now.
Yeah, and again, the main takeaway, the main cause analysis from the 3rd game was that everyone really liked the sea combats. Let's make the next game about pirates then. All fucking sea combats. Like,
Black Flag is fucking brilliant, right?
It's
I won't hear Anne bad said about Black Flag.
No, Black Flag is fine. I'm not saying it's a bad game, but the point is that you actually don't have any artistic integrity. And if you want to know what's going to happen to the Division, just fucking look at Assassin's Creed. Don't be surprised if it's like fucking 2024 and the Division 4 is coming out and it's fucking tanking. Because
are they still going with the Division? Are they still going with that? Is that game still out?
There's 2 Division games.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
But that's what I'm saying. That's where it's a cycle continues. You have 3 Watch Dogs. You've got 6 Far Cries. You got fucking 4 Manchester United. I don't know what fucking other games they have. You got constant fucking games.
Yeah,
just keep pumping
like out. That was it. It's like sometimes a good game is just a good game, and you don't need to pad it out with all this extra bullshit.
Exactly.
Now I get what you're trying to do. You're trying to artificially inflate your game's runtime, etc. Right, and make players feel like they're getting more bang for their buck. But the thing is, that's in your head. If you do a good game, people won't give a fuck. I played great games that I maybe were 6 hours playtime.
Yeah.
I played fantastic games that were, you complete them in one sitting.
Yeah.
But they were great games.
Better games.
Yeah, and I've remembered them.
Experiences. Yeah.
Some that spring to mind, fucking 2 great games, Limbo and Inside. Is it Inside?
Yeah, Inside.
Inside, yeah.
2 great games that you'll finish pretty fucking quick.
Yeah. A recent one that comes to mind is If Found, one that's set on the Barren Islands. It's done in 90 minutes. 90 minutes is all you play, but that's a more fulfilling experience than you'll ever play with 100.
Yeah, enough to stick with you and enough to fucking give you satisfaction that you got your money's worth. Exactly. I don't necessarily give a shit about the runtime of my game, right? No, I don't necessarily care that much, right? And to a degree, within reason. Obviously, if I get 90 minutes of game and I dropped 70 quid on it, I'm going to be a bit miffed about that, like, obviously. But within reason, I don't really care that much. You know, if it's a good game, it's a good game. I don't really care how long it lasts. You know, and so you don't need to inflate it with this fucking we have all this base building and you can go online and play with these fucking 12-year-olds. Brilliant. Yeah, that's what I want to do on my fucking weekends off. sit at home with a fucking headset on getting screamed at by children. That sounds brilliant. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
But like, obviously, like, they're games that like you dislike, but there is redeeming elements to it. But in the meantime, with it, like, you did touch on it briefly. It's now for our next topic is literally like a game that you've sunk so much time into and might not have gotten as much love as it would have. It's basically an underrated gem.
So I had 2 games that spring to mind with this, but I'll go with one, and we can touch on the other one later if you wish. But
Yeah, go for it.
The reason I'm going with this one is I feel the other one I think is more popular than I may have originally given it credit for. But the one that I'm going for, again, this one may be popular too, but it's one that I find, again, like I touched on with The Last of Us, it's one of my safe bets. It's one of my games that I will play over and over again. So it's a franchise again, but it is a specific game from that franchise. The franchise is the Sherlock Holmes franchise, and the game specifically will be The Devil's Daughter. Now, this is a mixture of a good story, not the best acted, okay acted. Graphics, they're all right. Gameplay, I suppose a lot of people would consider it boring because it's, essentially, collect, like kind of Phoenix Wright or anything like that. Collect clues, kind of find, different clues, link them together, come to your conclusion of who's guilty, who's not, and all that stuff. I can't even give a valid reason as to why I love it so much. I just find it as one of those games that I just return to time and time again, even though I've completed all the cases. I know the fucking answers to them all, but it's a game I'll just come back to as more of a, I suppose, kind of like Lego games. So if you're done with a big, intense story, and you've sunk hours and hours into a game, sometimes you want a game that's just fun. So I view the Lego games like that. So I think the Lego games are just turn your brain off, fun. They're very simple, not a lot to them. They're just good, right? And I see Sherlock Holmes in that same kind of thing. Obviously, a bit more thought required, but it's just more of a, I've had this big fucking story thing. I now going to relax into this with a bit more of a slower paced game, chill out, play this stuff, kind of almost relax and play, you know, that kind of way. I wish I could give you a more valid reason for it, but it's just one of those games I find myself coming back to over and over again, without one thing I can kind of nail down as to why. If that makes sense.
I'd say I'll kind of back you up on this point in the sense that I think the detective like genre is very underrated in games generally, because I think sometimes with the Sherlock Holmes like series you mentioned there, I think actually the Sherlock Holmes like kind of name weighs it down a little bit because people think it's a licensed tie-in.
Yeah.
The same way where like if you see like it's like obviously the superhero like games are a little bit of a exception to that rule. But if you see like a movie series tied to a game, you go, oh, that's gonna be terrible. I'm gonna avoid that. In the same way that sometimes if you see like, oh, it's a Sherlock Holmes game, it's bound to be terrible. When actually the quality is very, very good because of course like Sherlock Holmes is public domain. You can fucking go nuts with it, you know.
Yeah.
But I think overall the detective like genre is very, very underrated because there's some absolutely wonderful games in there in that section. Like I control the likes of Puzzle Agent, brilliant little game, like forgotten in the annals of time before Telltale got
Which
popular.
one's that?
Puzzle Agent. It was
one where,
like,
wait, was that DS?
No, it wasn't DS. No, that was a PC game. It was where basically you'll recognize it from if you Google search, you'll recognize the artwork, the art design.
1 second. Let me do that because that name is ringing a bell with me.
Yeah, but you mentioned the DS game. They're a great little console for detective games. Hotel Dusk, Ghost Trick.
Oh yeah, Hotel Dusk. What a game!
Fucking yeah.
Okay. Yes. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah. The Ace Attorney series, as you mentioned, I think the Ace Attorney is kind of the front runner of that genre altogether. Because if you know Ace Attorney, you'll have probably played the likes of Hotel Dusk and Ghost Trick and the Sherlock Holmes series because you're into that level of games.
Yes. Now that I will say it is very much a genre where you either like it or you don't. There's kind of no middle ground with it, I don't think. And yeah, I loved the Ace Attorney series back when I had a DS and all that stuff. And back before it was a meme, you know, but
before it was cool.
Yeah. Original hipster here. But like it's just it's that thing where it's kind of a thinking about it's slower paced. I think that's what I like. It's just a little bit slower paced, little foot off the accelerator, use your brain a little bit, have a think, you know, and that kind of thing. And I like that, you know, and it's one of those ones I'll just keep returning to. Fully aware not a lot of people will either A, like it, or B, know about it. Probably more A, that they won't like it. But for me, I got the whole series, the three of them. So there's Crimes and Punishment, Devil's Daughter, and then the new one, Year One, which is kind of a prequel. But they all are around the same premise. Year One, arguably, a little touch more action, and a touch more open world. Well, no, a lot more open world. That they've gone, but there was this whole big thing with Frogware's development company, and they were having trouble with the IP and all that stuff, and they only got it back recently, so that's why they did Year One and all that stuff. Blah blah blah. It's this whole big convoluted thing that you'd have to look up online. But to me, I love the franchise. You know, it's kind of funny when you look at it and see like Sherlock looks completely different in every single one they've done because they can't quite settle on a design for him. You know.
Again, public domain, like you can take whoever you want, really. Yeah.
But I just thoroughly enjoyed that game, Devil's Daughter. Thought it was, I just think it's great. I just thought it was really well done, and thoroughly enjoyable. The other game I was going to say, but I know for a fact it's far more popular. So another game I've sunk hours into is Catherine. Which is if you don't know Catherine, it's a Japanese kind of a JRPG, but not really an RPG. That makes sense. It's kind of strange, very strange. But it's
a very unique game. It's
very unique. It's essentially a puzzle game.
Yes,
essentially a puzzle game, and just a block moving puzzle game.
Yeah,
but see, that sounds really boring, but it has this fantastic story. You're this guy who's even explaining it is going to make it sound fucking shit because it's so convoluted. But like you're going out with a girl called Catherine, and you're like scared of commitment and all this stuff to her. But then when you dream, you're having all these fucked up dreams, and then you meet another girl called Catherine.
Cool.
One has a K, one has a C, but they're both Catherine. And then you end up cheating on your girlfriend with her, and then it's all fucking, you're dealing with your guilt and all this shit, and your nightmares are getting more and more insane. And then you find out like that people are dying in their nightmare. It's all mental, right? And in this nightmare, you're a sheep, and you're essentially climbing this tower. And to climb this tower, you have to pull blocks and move blocks to kind of climb the tower and make your way to the top. And obviously, it's very open-ended in that you can make whatever route you need to get. There's very few kind of definitive routes, but you can, whatever way you need to get up there. But there's such a sense of urgency, because if the floor isn't falling out from underneath you, where you're trying to fucking get up this thing as fast as you can, there's something fucking chasing you, like a weird death baby.
Yeah.
Like crawling up.
A visual metaphor of some kind.
Yeah. Like crawling up behind you going, "Daddy!" And you're like, "Jesus fucking Christ, that way!" And you're panicking because this thing's right at your feet, and you're trying to pull out the fucking blocks and climb up, and it's sheer panic and sheer fucking madness, and just really entertaining. Over 18s though, kids. But yeah, very, very. Look, you don't need me to say it's over. The game is Catherine called, and the limited edition called the Full Body Edition.
Full body, yeah, edition, yeah. I think it just went out on Switch last year. I think it is the year before. So it has.
I can't imagine playing on Switch.
Yeah,
yeah. You see, that's why I didn't pick it, is because it also got relaunched on the PS4 as well.
Yeah, it went away for a good couple of years because I think like it kind of, like I say, it was. I know it was a PS3 like kind of title, and I think people just kind of forgot about it until people went like, "That's Catherine." Do you know what? I think it was also because I think the designer is the same guy that does the Persona series.
I think it is.
So I think when Persona,
in fact, I'm almost certain there is, because in Persona, I think there's Catherine costumes you can unlock.
Well then, yeah, that's
not unlock, but as DLC. You can get Catherine costumes.
They probably did the tie-in with the two then. So Persona 5 was coming out then. They wanted Catherine to be on the PS4. So that's
so I'm almost certain it is. There's definitely a connection somewhere in development there with them.
I think they're all in the same universe anyway.
I couldn't find more different games if I tried though in gameplay style. Persona 5 again, that's in my list as well. One of my favorite games. Fucking adore that game. Really love that game.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's my underrated one, I think.
That one really falls into like a category of like when you have a Japanese author like that and they just make a game that's in their mind and it doesn't fall into a genre. It's just the game they want to make.
I like if I was pushed, I suppose I'd say puzzle, because that's the kind of gameplay of it.
Yeah.
But there's more to it, and it's such you've hit the nail on the head, because it's so difficult to describe it because there's so many different things fucking happening.
That's it.
It's really complicated to explain it without sounding like a madman. I know that's like, because I play games from similar type of creators and think like, where the fuck do I start with it? Like, where do you start with God Hand? Where do you start where do you start with Deadly Premonition, which is literally a Japanese version of Twin Peaks? Like, that's the best way I can describe that. Like, gameplay is a hodgepodge, but it's literally Twin Peaks but done by a Japanese man. Like, there's no difference. Killer 7. What the fuck is Killer 7? Oh, Jesus. Now
you know what I mean? Like, where do you start with these games? But that's what makes them unique.
Weren't they meant to be redoing Killer 7?
I heard there was a Switch version coming out soon, but I could be wrong. I think a lot of the Studio 51 stuff is getting remastered. And
I don't read a lot of stuff, honestly, anymore about kind of upcoming games. I kind of just let them appear in the store and kind of go, ooh, like I don't read very much on them anymore. To tell you the truth, there was a time I did. I used to buy the magazine. Show my age now. I used to buy the magazines and all that shit all the time. Because they were the coolest fucking.
Remember the old like PlayStation demo disc?
Oh yeah. Oh god,
have some of them.
Yeah. Ridge Racer. All that shit.
Classic.
Oh no, I remember that. Like, you get your demo disc. Like I was only fucking talking about the other day. Like I remember. So I didn't have a lot of money growing up, so it took kind of, my first console was a Commodore 64, and then after that I got a Sega Mega Drive. But to kind of move up from that didn't happen. And those consoles were gotten after like a year of saving for my parents, like that kind of thing for Christmas. But the PlayStation, oh man, it took me so long to get a PlayStation. Like, I used to go down to the video shop. Remember them? They were a thing. I used to go down to the video shop in my hometown and rent a PlayStation and one game for £5 for the night.
Chartbusters and Extravision.
Oh, you're getting fancy now, fucker. We had none of those. We had none of those franchises.
Before I had that, I had John's fucking video shop on.
We had Dowlands. Like there was my little town. No, the fucking Chartbusters or Extravision. Fuck off, you fancy Dublin bastard. Right?
You realize you are playing out the Four Yorkshiremen sketch from Monty Python here. It's like, you think that's bad? Back in my day, I had one half of a Game Boy, and we had to pretend that the other half was there and just play along with Tetris. The blocks went nowhere.
But like I remember renting a play. I'd do that like once every couple of months. I'd be able to rent a PlayStation for a night, and one night, and you haven't known intensity till you tried playing Final Fantasy VII in one night.
No memory cards.
That's why you rent it early in the day.
Oh,
So
even
have it
motherfucker, you try get through 4 discs in one day. You know?
It's hardcore shit. That is.
It's like a euphemism for a one night stand. Jesus.
There was that, and there was an old wrestling game that I can't remember the name of for the life of me. I remember one character in it called Chain Gang. And it was a wrestling. I used to buy this wrestling game all the time. There was nobody famous in it. There was nobody, like, it wasn't a licensed wrestling game. It was just a wrestling game. And I think the announcer used to say, "Unshackled Chain Gang," and he was dressed like a prisoner. He was dressed like he was. I think the whole thing was that he was a prisoner.
Was he John Jennings?
No idea.
I'm sure they're going for nails, Foxy. Somehow.
Sorry, I was just trying to pop John there. That's all.
I think that fucking pop John there was the fucking roof at the Reno Hotel. That's what fucking popped me. That did actually pop me there. Fuck.
Popped yourself.
Shut up, Foxy.
But yeah, so underrated. I would say Sherlock Holmes.
Defo.
Okay. That leads us to the last one. And this is purely like going to the head, literally as quick as you can. What deserves, in your mind, a remake?
One quick question. Sure. What's your definition of a remake? Do you mean a shot for shot, or do you mean like a Final Fantasy VII remake?
I mean, more like a warts and all remake, like how kind of like
just
I suppose you crash and spire, like
redone.
Yeah,
completely redone. Just something big. I'll give you an example. So I picked GoldenEye.
So nothing extra added to it. Just
nothing extra added to it.
Right.
Literally just updated graphics, just accessibility for people. Like if it was a
I want to say one, but I don't. I think it might be happening. So I don't know if that's valid.
Say to me now, and I'll check.
Metal Gear Solid.
It's possible.
Because I think actually there was a Irish musician.
Agey bastard.
There was an Irish musician who was interviewed down here in Waterford recently. This made news apparently in gaming circles. She was interviewed for a station down here in Waterford that I used to work for. And she essentially let slip that she had recorded music for Metal Gear Solid.
It's yet to come, yeah.
So that looks like it'll be happening. So yeah, but you know, in the intro, I'll still say Metal Gear Solid because I think that game to me was I just loved it. I love that game. It was fantastic. It was a game that really, in a time when it was all shooty, bang, bang, it was a game that very much changed things and put the emphasis on the stealth play. And definitely arguably, created the stealth action genre in games.
That'd be a fair statement.
And I think it was done fantastically. I thought the story in that game was cohesive and was easy to follow. Now that game, right? Not what happened, right? You know,
Drop yourself in.
Yeah. You know, but I thought in that game it was fairly easy to follow. It was really well done. The story was not engaging, characters again well acted, well written. Gameplay was fun, challenging. It had a few really groundbreaking, unique things that at least again I can only speak subjectively, I hadn't seen this stuff before. Stuff like Psycho Mantis.
Psycho Mantis comes to
You know,
mind,
that one instantly comes up in everybody's head, you know, reading your memory card, and he'll comment on
play Castlevania.
Yeah, he'll comment on the games you have. Like, that's mental, you know, saying little things like, you know, put your controller down and I'll move it with my mind. And, you know, and he does the vibration thing. And then the only way you could beat him was by unplugging your controller and plug it into the other port.
Yeah.
And then, like, in his dying words, he's like, I couldn't read your mind. You used the other. And he's like, fantastic.
This gun is the best gun ever.
Like,
Ching.
yeah. Like, absolutely brilliant. Some really unique stuff there, you know. Also, multiple endings,
yes.
You know. So I think that, to me, remade without falling into the trap of fucking with it and throwing shit in that doesn't need to be thrown in. I think you could really have something special there. You see, I said the one originally about Final Fantasy VII to you, and if you meant a remake in that way, because honestly, to me, that's how a remake should be done. You took the original story, you kept it, you just fleshed it out more. And then you added in a few extra things, but nothing that took away. You added in a few side missions, and you added in a few more kind of upgrade options and all that stuff. But essentially, it's still the same. It just looks gorgeous, and a few characters now. There's more depth, like with Jesse and Biggs. They now have far more. You know, you feel far more for them when things happen, you know, and all that. At least that's what I found. And, you know, that obviously that's a series that's going to be running for a while now, because they're obviously releasing them disc by disc, as they were in the original one was a 4-disc package. So the first remake came out was essentially the first disc of the game. But I thought, in my opinion, probably the best remake I've played. You know, because I just love it. And I thoroughly enjoyed likes of Crash and Spyro as well. And I thought they were great. Spyro more so. Because I thought Crash, they well publicized, fucked it up a little bit. By mapping the controls for 3 onto all of them. And it just
they started on 3 and then they reversed it back
and it didn't work. Now I think they may have fixed that with a patch. I'm not quite sure, though. I could be wrong.
It kind of adds to the difficulty of the first game, in a sense, because they took out, it wasn't just that, but they changed the hitboxes, and they changed there's no coyote time, for example. So 1 is still the hardest game. 2 is better, but my God, difficulty curve hits you in the fucking face. And then 3 is a breeze. So in a sense where you can start off at 1, go through your pain, and then suddenly 3 like a fucking summer breeze comparatively, you know.
It's true, and I played them all. Obviously, I played them all. I love them, right? Again, but it's just, to me, I look back with such fondness at Final Fantasy VII. I know I've referenced it a lot this episode, but again, it was one of those first games we referenced on games making you feel. That was a game that I felt a mix of sadness, horror, and anger all at one moment in that game. And I think we may all know that moment. Sadness because of what happened, anger because I had spent so long building her up as one of my most powerful team members. And if you had good materia on her, you lost that materia. That materia was gone. Learned that the hard way. You know,
so basically what you're telling us is don't level her up at all.
Never try.
Don't bother. But you know,
to your point though about the Metal Gear Solid remake, it's fascinating to see where you'd actually start, because the kind of obvious answer, but the obvious answer would be to start off with Solids, in a sense where you do because you have these like new kind of great game engines, you can do essentially give the same game, but with like
Metal Gear Solid would be the starting point because I think that was the relaunching of that series. So that series existed on Nintendo, etc. before, but had largely been forgotten.
That's true. But see, my point, what I was going to say there was, I think that those two, I think, are worthy for a remake instead, because you have that connective tissue with the last game, like the Phantom Pain. That game ends literally as the final like battle of the first game ever.
In Zanzibar.
That's the way the timing kind of works out. So
that's fair.
It's a case of where, like, if you wanted to say, let's just say you have the keys to the kingdom, you want to reboot Metal Gear Solid, you want to get it back into the kind of the foray of the main games. You have a completely blank slate essentially with the Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake, because as you said, they're top down, they're 8-bit, the bosses are generic, and the layouts are fairly straightforward, which means that you can essentially have a free reign over what type of story you want to tell, what way do you want the bosses to be kind of like crafted, and what big boss do you have, because essentially you have a choice between the body double or the real deal. And if you know the two games and the original games, you know which one is which. So
there's a better balance there. That's an interesting thing that I hadn't thought of, and that would make sense. But you see, I think that, even out of the game world, in the real world, you have even more obstacles I think you need to overcome as well.
Yeah, Hideo Kojima being one of them, I think. And Konami being one of them as well.
Their relationship. Although I heard recently there was rumblings about him finally getting to maybe do this Silent Hill thing he was originally trying to do.
There's been rumors about that, yeah.
In which case that would indicate some sort of relationship being repaired.
They're still riding on the Death Stranding kind of love, so that's been...
Konami kind of fucked them a little bit. But then, again, I didn't read overly large amounts on it. It just seemed that they dicked them over a touch.
It was 70 of one and 30 of the other. And that's
Konami, what I mean. I doubt it was completely faultless. But there seemed to be a fractured relationship, which, I mean, until that's fixed, I doubt you'll see anything to do with Metal Gear until that is fixed, because I'm assuming Konami owned the rights to it.
Yes.
But then, and I don't know how much Kojima owns in terms of IP. Do you know what I mean?
Because it's all tied in with Konami, so that's the thing.
I don't know.
I don't know,
because they may just decide we're not going to do anything with Metal Gear because their backlash would be so great because we don't have Kojima involved.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah,
I don't know.
Cool by that. Yeah, exactly.
That'd be completely fair to like make that assumption, because like he is the driving force behind it.
Yeah, it's not the same game without him. No,
because like the way he does business is very cagey, like, and it's the fact that like he tries to do it based off movies that he enjoys, but it's like to the point where no one knows exactly what the hell he has in mind for it.
Yeah,
and he
doesn't make a game unless he has a point to make, is the thing. Because with the first game, it was a shot in the dark. He was doing whatever he wanted. But the second game, he's going on about like the digital world and how like memes are gonna like take over from truth, and then 10 years later it comes to fucking pass, and that's incredibly terrifying. That a Japanese game developer hermit who doesn't go outside and watch 2 movies per day is able to suss that out fairly fucking quickly.
And who's really good friends with Guillermo del Toro.
He's friends with a lot of directors. He put him in this fucking Death Stranding game.
That's right, del Toro is in Death Stranding, yeah.
Yeah. And so is fucking Nicholas Wenning as well. Like they put half of his mates in that game. Like anyway, I think he's probably making a point in that as well. I've yet to play Death Stranding, so I don't know. I don't know what
I found it a bit of a slog.
That's what kind of put me off it a bit. But that's like I say, he has a point to his games in a sense.
Interesting premise. Good story. Very slow.
Yeah,
I figured sim. Very slow. So much so that it's a slog. If you're a big fan of stories, like there'll be big gaps with no real story because you're progressing by literally trying to get from one place to another.
Yeah. That sounds about right, yeah.
So yeah, a bit of a slog.
Yeah.
So there you go.
That has been your Just 4 Games. I say that, but like it's been actually more than that. It's probably been like so. You and Jamie are very similar in terms of like your choices, like very demanding. It's like, oh, what about this and this? Oh, I thought about this again. Like, it's just 4 games. Shouldn't be that fucking hard.
I play a lot of games.
What you need to do, Foxy, you need to find a guest who has just only played 4 games. Yeah. That's what you need to do.
Good luck to that.
You have to find somebody with a lot less free time than me. I literally just wear a waistcoat and occasionally and then play video games. So I have a lot of spare time. So I play a lot of games. You
wear a waistcoat and you're partial to face paints, like and fucking.
No, that guy just looks like me.
Yeah,
very handsome.
Similar but deeply distinct.
Completely different in every single way.
And I personally find it very disgusting that you think that all bald people look the same, Foxy. I think it's disrespectful to us.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was bald.
He's
yeah, of course.
He blew you a kiss in the ring.
How would you know, Dennis?
Huh? I heard reports.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
Okay. Just.
I'm like Clark Kent. I'm an in-depth reporter with nothing suspicious going on at all.
Gotcha.
They don't recognize me at all. Glasses
the
on.
Hat. The minute I take off the hat.
It's a guy with the waistcoat.
That's why I'm always wearing the hat.
No, but
oh God, I remember. I think you were there, Foxy. Fucking hell, I think you were there.
What did you do?
Outside the Europa in Belfast. We were just done with a show. We walked out, and a couple of the fantastic fans were there. And myself, yourself, and Raven were walking away, and they started chanting "Sexy Waistcoat." We were doing this in the middle of the street, and just this confused couple just walking by, just going, why are they shouting these words at this man? I've never heard somebody abuse somebody by shouting the word "sexy waistcoat" at them. Just that confusion in their faces, just that was fantastic.
Like, you're talking about the confusion of them, but if you had actually looked over and looked at Raven was just as confused as those two people as well. Like,
probably thinking, why aren't they chanting for her? She deserves it way more than me. Why aren't you chanting for Raven?
You know what she's going wrong with? She doesn't have a sexy fucking waistcoat. That's what her problem is.
She just thrown herself through like multiple chairs and like all these other weapons.
Yeah, she just wrecked herself. Cheer for her. Like,
no,
she's going wrong.
People are partial to the waistcoat.
Yeah. Tactical error. That's I'm telling you, lads.
Yeah. Merchandise incoming.
Cool. That has been Just 4 Games. Thank you again to our lovely guest, Mr. Sexy Waistcoat.
You've forgotten my actual name. You only work with me, you dickhead.
No, I'm giving you a nickname. That's what I'm doing.
To be fair, I always knew Foxy as the ref for like about 4 years before I actually knew who he was. So, I mean, and normally it's a case of like, commanding the wrestlers to either chop him or suplex him or throw him over the top rope, whichever comes first, really.
Or all three, it depends.
All three, it depends, really. They're all very obliging lads up there.
Concuss him, smack him in the face with a chair.
Yeah.
People love seeing you get hurt.
I know.
It's funny. It's objectively funny. It's been proven by science.
It's great because it'll never happen to me.
Oh,
shadowing.
Watch this space. No, but
where something bad might happen to a ring announcer at some time.
No, but again, I do.
That time I fell on my ass getting out of the ring.
Yes, you did.
That was kind of funny, actually. Yeah.
It was funny. But Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Also, give a like, subscribe to the channel because it will really help. Not only to Nerds Us channel, but also to the Foxy Bros Gaming channel, which you will also see this video on. I'm forgetting stuff. So yeah,
Shock horror.
It's your channel. You like it.
Yeah.
Go from there.
What's the finish? He's forgotten the finish. This is Maxer and Sterling all over again.
You haven't clued me in.
Take it home, Foxy. Take it home, Foxy. Take it home. Take it home.
I know.
Foxy, for fuck's sake.
Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes.
Come on.
Take
Stop
it home, you
your promo.
motherfucker.
Come on.
Anyway, like, please let us know your thoughts. Give us suggestions for games, or if you'd like to be a guest on the show, because we'd love to have you. Just like that other guest in the background. But like, anyway.
That was actually a
Anyway,
preview. She's on
Very terrifying. I live alone.
But anyway, again, thank you very much for watching the video. Hopefully we'll see you again in the next one. And this has been Just 4 Games. Peace out.